Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Baithak podcast. I'm your host Didi, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll be reviewing the third round of the Formula E World Championship held at Mexico City. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready our opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Hello Vedant, what an exciting 45 minutes it was yesterday in Formula E. I was on the edge of my seat, and things started to go down at the very last minute with that one extra lap that Pascal Wehrlein and Andre Lauterer decided to put in. It hurt a lot of people, but we have much to talk about today. What did you think of the race?
Well, it certainly was exciting because I was ready at 3 a.m. to watch the race, but my calendar was synced to the wrong time, so I had to stay awake a lot more. And yeah, I mean, it was exciting to watch. Unfortunately, I've kind of dozed off towards the end, and I just shut off my eyes in the last few laps. But yeah, it was an
But even the
absolute
even
cracker
the
of the race
qualifying
before
was
that. Yeah,
scintillating. Yeah,
absolutely.
even qualifying was scintillating, and people made a lot of mistakes. But let's get down to the three things that we want to talk about from this race. And the first, obviously, is look who finally decided to show up. It is Porsche, and it is Pascal Wehrlein in that Porsche. What a redemption arc for this man, from last year. If our listeners don't remember, Pascal Wehrlein won the Puebla E-Prix last year, held in Mexico, but got disqualified after the race for not declaring, which tire set he was going to be racing on. So that was a technical infringement. But now he comes back to the same country, a different track, but takes the win in dominating way in a dominating fashion. What do you think of Pascal Wehrlein winning this race, Vedant?
I mean, it is the perfect story because Pascal Wehrlein has now had lost two races before this year in Mexico. We all remember the I think 2017 Mexico City E-Prix where Pascal Wehrlein lost it on the last few hundred meters due to
Not
his
he lost it on the line and
yeah,
that too for Mahindra, so
absolutely.
it really hurt us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then last year, as you said, he lost the race after winning it. So absolutely third time successful for Pascal Wehrlein, and you got to feel happy for the man because he has seen, like, when you look at it, two race wins lost, and he now wins it. So you got to feel happy for the man, and it is a huge step for Porsche as well. Now that they will remain the only German manufacturer in the series, and to get that win now in a crucial time because other than after this season they would have, like, to answer a lot of questions from their stockholders, right? So yeah, absolutely crucial win for Porsche.
Absolutely, and I think this bodes well for Formula E. You don't need three. You don't need the qualifying format that you had previously, that jumbled up qualifying format. In order to make Formula E exciting, we now have three championship contenders. We have had three different winners from three different teams in the first three races, and it can't be any more exciting than it is right now. We had a 1-2 finish for Mercedes in the first race. Then we had a 1-3 for Rocket Venturi in the second race. And now we have a 1-2 Porsche, and DS Tachita is, finished third and fourth. So clearly we have a championship battle on our hands. But coming back to Pascal Wehrlein, Vedant, he was an F1 prodigy, but he was in a Sauber that didn't perform, was nowhere near, even the midfield. And he has sort of struggled for consistency in Formula E. So it couldn't have happened to a better guy. And I really hope, he can continue this form throughout this season and, at least put up a championship fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Pascal is a pure racer. He was the youngest DTM champion at 19 years of age, and then called up to Formula One, which did not pan out the way he wanted. But then again, when you are a racer on a world championship level, you can race anywhere in the world and you can still be sensational. And Pascal Wehrlein has shown us his performances in Formula E over and over again. So yeah, absolutely, as you said, it could not have happened to a better guy, and it could not have happened to him at a better circuit. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, let's move on to our second thing, Vedant. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said last week, that the Jaguars have a lot of thinking to do, and the Jaguars will face uh, realities this season. And once again, we did not see the Jaguars anywhere. They were supposed to be the championship contenders this season, and now they lie like I don't know, they lie seventh in the world in the constructors championships. So it's going to be a very tough season for them. And again, this this race was not what they wanted.
Yeah, once again, very surprising to see the Jaguars off the pace. We didn't even see them, go into qualifying that well. So it was really surprising, given how what the expectations were going into this season, like you pointed out. And I mean, we haven't heard anything from Jaguar. We haven't heard anything from the leadership. We haven't heard anything from the drivers that might point to something that regarding what development has gone on behind the scenes. Maybe it is possible that Jaguar has committed all its efforts to the Gen 3 car, and this season is all about trying their level best to do whatever they can in order to salvage some points and some money from the sponsors. But they might have given up on this season, unlike what we have thought so far.
I mean, I don't think so that they want they are thinking for 2023, because unlike Formula 1, Formula E is a much more spec series, right? And they don't have a lot of engineering to do apart from the drivetrain and the setup as such. And when we heard Jaguar, when we listened to Sam Bird before the season, they were all ready to fight for the championship and win the championship basically. So I don't think they have given up on the season, or they have found some, like basically thinking about 2023. They are thinking about 2022. They are thinking about season 8. But then again, they need to think a lot harder, and they need to think from the ground up, because after 2 rounds they have just a handful of points. And if they are to mount a championship challenge, which is possible in Formula E at this stage, they need to do something. And since they have 2 months now before Rome, I think they can make good use of the time.
Yeah, I hope so. And this is a great segue into the third thing that we have from this particular E-Prix. Last minute drama as cars run out of energy. As you said, Jaguar needs to think, and their race strategists definitely need to have a think. They made a mistake alongside Mahindra's Oliver Rowland. They all made late charges into the points, but because they were so low on energy, and they had to do 2 laps at the end of the race instead of the 1, because Pascal Wehrlein crossed the finish line with literally 1 second or less remaining. Um, they basically fell through the grid, which is why they couldn't pick up any points. So very disheartening for Jaguar and Mahindra too. And Mahindra obviously had Alexander Sims out of the race because of a technical failure. So again, like you said, Jaguar needs to have a think. But I want to bring our attention to this last minute drama regarding the energy consumption. Last year we were in Valencia, and we had the energy consumption fiasco because of the safety car. Now this time it wasn't because of the safety car; it was just because of race strategy. The 4 or 5 drivers that were affected fell through the grid. But I remember, when we were doing our podcast after Valencia, when we were reviewing what happened in Valencia round 1, I said, if Mercedes strategy engineers could figure it out, it is definitely, yes, the sport could do something to, avoid such things happening again on such a large scale. But, even if one team is able to figure out, I think it is a fault of, the race strategy engineers, or, the team that is behind the scenes
teams,
working. Yeah. And, it wasn't a very well received, or it wasn't the general consensus amongst the public. But this definitely goes to show you that it can still happen in race conditions, if even if there's a little change, if there's 1 lap more. So again, for those who were able to make it to the end, I think great strategy there. And for those who didn't, I think they need to look harder at what the tools that they have and the processes that they're following, so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Formula E. Formula E is about racing, but the second most important part in Formula E is energy management, right? And if a team is unable to do that, they have basically failed that weekend. They, like, you may score some points, or you may score, a pole on during qualifying, but if you can't manage the energy throughout the race for 45 minutes plus 1 lap, you have basically failed at the one thing you were supposed to do. So it's definitely definitely a hard look in the mirror for Jaguar and for Mahindra as well, because Mahindra we have seen struggle a lot during the past couple of years, and they always show potential. They have great drivers, but somehow they can't make that work. And I mean, this season, 3 races they have had 3 DNFs for some reason or the other, but they have been unlucky for sure. But yeah, they definitely need a hard look in the mirror.
Yep, those were the three things from this weekend. But Vedant, I have one more comment to make. Um, who said Formula E was not ready to race on actual racetracks? Yeah, they might not be ready for the long straights of Monza. They might not be ready for the huge laps of Spa-Francorchamps, but they're definitely ready to race on actual circuits. I mean, the racing was phenomenal. We had comparatively less damage since cars were not hitting the walls as much when they were racing. So it is definitely a sport that is ready to go from the streets to the stadiums. Even though the overall strategy does say that this is a sport for the city streets. Because of the message that they bring about sustainability and electric mobility and things like that. However, if there were any doubts that Formula E could not go racing after what happened in Valencia last year, those doubts have been absolutely erased after what we saw in Mexico City this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's motorsports and it's Formula E, and racing in Mexico City in a semi permanent circuit as such. It is part of a road layout of Mexico City basically. But yeah, I think Formula E is ready. They just need to take that plunge, take that how do I call it?
Dive into the world of circuits.
Yeah,
I think Lake Asle might be a great place to experiment because of the number of layouts that the track in France has.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea, and you can always make a lot of corners in the middle sector to help regen and all that. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. But I mean, with the Gen 3 coming in, with the potential fast charging coming in, I think it's a great opportunity. As I have always said, that they can finally make that step, and may the ghosts of Valencia stay behind and just forget that one weekend and go ahead.
Yup. And along with all of this, it was really nice to see that more and more people have tuned into Formula E in the past couple of months. Even until last year, we didn't see so many people on Twitter, especially from the Formula One fan base, talk about Formula E. Yes, there would be, a couple journalists, a couple fans who would come out and, tweet about what happened in Formula E. But it seemed like, at least from our feed, on our page, it seemed like there were a lot more people who were interested in Formula E and were following what happened in Mexico City. So that is great for Formula E, I think. And obviously that is helped by the fact that we have a couple Formula One drivers who moved to Formula E this season. But good things are in stock for Formula E. Obviously, before we wrap up this podcast, let's go over the results. If you haven't figured out yet, Pascal Wehrlein won the race. His teammate came in second, Andre Lotterer, and the podium places were rounded up by John-Eric Verne for the DS Techeetah team. In the championships, Edo Mortara is leading the Drivers' Championship by 5 points over Nick De Vries. He finished 5th in the race, so barely ahead. And in the Constructors' Championship, we still have Rocket Venturi racing in the number 1 spot with 66 points, ahead of Mercedes EQ by 2 points, followed closely by the Jaguar Porsches with 60 points. So, once again, it's shaping up to be a really, really close championship with 3 contenders so far. But there's more to come. There's a long break till the next race. Round 4 in Rome is on April 9th. So we have 2 months of other racing series to cover. In the meantime, obviously, we'll have WEC, we'll have Formula One and whatnot, to immerse ourselves in. But we'll be waiting for Formula E to be back. But yeah, before we wrap up, Vedant, any last thoughts?
Well, as you said, there are 2 months before the next race in Rome. And for us, it's 2 months of other racing series. But for them, for the drivers and teams of Formula E, it's 2 months of great development work. And, 2 months of simulator work, 2 months of development work as such. And I think these 2 months is a long time for mid-season development. And if any team can get it right, especially the teams like Jaguar or uh, DS Tachita, or all these things, all these teams who are supposed to be at the front of the grid. If these teams can get it right, it's going to be a great title challenge throughout the season, and we can't wait because we already know that the two Mercedes teams will be fighting. We now know that Porsche and Andretti can fight. So if we add more teams to the equation, it'll be as interesting as always.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again on this podcast. It's always a pleasure talking with you about racing. And obviously, we'll keep bringing you this content over and over again every week. So stay tuned for all the motorsport news and updates on the Motorsport Baithak channel. Thank you so much for joining me once again.